Right, Dave, quick question for you. Where are they taking the hobbits?
Ah, yes, they're taking the hobbits to Isengard. God.
To
God.
Isengard. Yeah, classic. I love those memes.
Yeah.
Would you like to explain to our listeners, anybody who might have been living under a rock that doesn't even know what that's about?
I mean, you don't have to be living under a rock. I think it was in the era of, before TikTok and before memes, even like way back when all we had was DVDs and books and then YouTube. And YouTube had like, if there was one Lord of the Rings video that was semi funny, like every Lord of the Rings fan would know about it, and that was the case with they're taking the hobbits to Isengard. It was like a remix of when Legolas says they're taking the hobbits to Isengard, and it was made even more famous when Orlando Bloom actually kind of did it while he was on the set of the Hobbit movie, The Desolation of Smaug.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
it just blew up. And I think for some of
It's
us
like the
more,
first meme.
yeah, well, definitely one of the first Lord of the Rings memes. And for some of us more mature fans like yourself and myself, not mature in our actions, but
Age only.
in our age, yeah.
Take a look at our Twitter page and realize we're not mature at all.
Yeah, but
Speaking of Lord of the Rings memes, that's the place to go as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
At Mellon_Heads. Go check it out.
Mellon with 2 L's, yes. So we would definitely know all about this, and the video with Faramir's map and all that kind of stuff, and it's kind of etched its way into our general language and way of speaking as well. Like I might say they're taking the hobbits to Isengard, and you might say, yes, very good.
I get it.
Yes, I get it.
It's very difficult for Dave and I to have a conversation that goes more than about 2 or 3 sentences without quoting either a quote from Lord of the Rings or a meme of that quote of the Lord of the Rings, or just some sort of a little hot take, or just I don't know.
Indeed.
It's very annoying to hang out with us if you don't also love Lord of the Rings, basically. So I'm glad we have all you listeners who will listen to our just ramblings and goings on. But anyway, we're going to get into today's episode. So the hobbits were indeed taken to Isengard, and that's what's in store for all of you lovely listeners today, as we are journeying deep into the heart of one of the most iconic and mysterious locations in Tolkien's Legendarium, which is Isengard, and also the towering pinnacle of Orthanc. And this fortress of stone and steel, once a place of wisdom and counsel, became a symbol of treachery, ambition, and betrayal. Let's get into it. Welcome everyone to the world's #1 Lord of the Rings podcast. Dave, are you excited to talk about Isengard?
I am, because I don't know very well. I know what I know, and we do obviously see it a lot in the movies. And
well, let's start there. Tell us, tell the listeners, where do we see, what is Isengard, or I mentioned Orthanc, what are these things, and where do we see them in the movies?
Yeah, so Isengard would be, so Orthanc would be the tower, which is made of like black stone of some sort. I'm sure we'll hear what it is in this episode, but
nope.
So Orthanc is the Orthanc is the tower, and that's where Saruman lives when it's the time of the Lord of the Rings and the movies and whatnot. And then surrounding it, there's kind of like a circular fortress, and I assume that is Isengard because it's a fortress around the tower. And Isen is also the place that this whole tower and tower guard thing is in, because we have the river Isen as well. And yeah, I can't remember what else. There's not a forest of Isen, but you do hear of the river Isen. They mention it a few times in the films, and it's in the books as well.
They said the river is Risen, not the river Isen.
Right.
Yes, you very good, very good. You're thinking of the Fords of Isen. That's the name of the river, basically. But yes, the Fords of Isen is the river which flows through, which we also see in the movies, that they release the river and they break the dam, and Treebeard and all the boys. So yeah, very good. Thank you for that beautiful explanation.
You're welcome.
When was the first time you ever set eyes on the Tower of Orthanc, Dave? Do you know?
The movie?
Well, maybe before the movie. Well, I know I did, because I was alive when they were coming out.
Okay, and, so the trailer we see in, I think it's the Fellowship of the Ring trailer, we actually see clips that are either unused or only in the Two Towers movie.
You're going way more into detail than I had actually planned with this with this question that I just invented off the top of my head. I was going to ask you about the like fabled Two Towers poster that we get to see.
Oh, okay, yeah. There's a Two Towers poster.
What's the cover of the? Oh yeah, what's the cover of the? What is the poster of the Two Towers that was before the movie came out that we got to see? Or again in the trailer as well. It was. I remember it from the trailer.
We see the Tower of Orthanc and the Tower of Barad-dûr. Yeah,
exactly. That's it. We just got. Sorry,
sorry, I'm pooping my pants. No. Hello, Dave. Welcome to the show. What's your favorite color? Oh God.
People listening to this podcast for the first time are like, these guys don't know anything. Have they even seen the movies? So obviously all of our listeners will know that the second Lord of the Rings film, entitled The Two Towers, it was all about, and especially it was movie wise anyway, it was definitely pushed that the Two Towers were Barad-dûr and Orthanc. And I remember in the trailer where they had that line from Saruman saying, and the union of the Two Towers.
Yes.
That when he's talking about basically when you're watching the trailer, you're like, what's this next movie going to be about? It was like, it's Saruman and Sauron have teamed up in a special duet and they're going to be taking on Gandalf and the other lads. And but is there a little story behind that, Dave? Are we definitely sure that this should be the case? Are these definitely the Two Towers?
No, they're not. And we discussed this way back. I think it's our third ever episode, or in and around there. It was
long time.
It was Tolkien versus Jackson. So guys, go way back there and check that one out. Tolkien versus Jackson. I think the Two Towers.
Episode 3.
Episode 3. And yes, this was. Myself and Johnny grew up thinking that the Two Towers meant Barad-dûr, which is the tower in Mordor where Sauron lives, basically, and the one with the big eye, and then Orthanc, which is obviously where Saruman lives in Isengard. But Tolkien, when he was writing the books, he wanted all the books to come out. In 6 different parts or just one big book. I can't remember. I think it was 6 different. It was 6 parts. But then
there are 6 books, yeah.
Yeah, but his publisher was like, we can't do this. It needs to be a trilogy. So we're amalgamating the first 2 together, the third and fourth together, and fifth and sixth.
There will be a union between book 1 and 2,
yeah.
book 3 and 4, and book 5 and 6. So there's unions everywhere. The union of all the books.
So obviously, when you read the books, you'll actually see book 1, book 2 within the Fellowship of the Ring, and they have their own titles. I can't remember that. I can't remember them off the top of my head. But I think then Tolkien kind of literally just before publishing had to come up with names of all the books. And he came up with the name The Two Towers, but there are letters to his publisher where he's like, I think actually it might be Barad-dûr and Cirith Ungol, or it might be Cirith Ungol and, I don't know, Minas Ithil or whatever. So,
yeah.
We don't really know.
It was pretty definite that Cirith Ungol was one of them anyway, for
right.
sure. I think that was definitely one of them, but yeah.
Isn't that funny? Cirith Ungol is a definite one.
Yeah. So, as Dave said there, go back and listen to that episode if you want to know more, because I certainly can't remember exactly all the details. But it was interesting to note that it was kind of Peter Jackson and his team that just said, we're just going to take these are the Two Towers and we're going to go with it. And for all purposes of this movie, that's what it's going to be. Because again, Cirith Ungol didn't really feature as a massive part of that movie. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it wouldn't have really made sense to the cinema goers that this would be the title of the movie or involved in the title of the movie, and it also wouldn't really have huge importance. But anyway, moving on. So that is as Dave eloquently put it there a moment ago, Barad-dûr was the tower with the big eye, and this was the other tower. And very pointy towers for the evil lads in Middle-earth. Either a 2-pronged fork kind of tower, or else Isengard with Orthanc with its 4-pronged tower as well. So you could definitely, if you were a giant, you could pick up these towers and use them for eating a corn on the cob, or for maybe a cocktail sausage or something like that.
Yeah, one thing's for sure, that they were built to look like pricks and contained pricks inside them.
Very good. I get it.
Yes, I get it now. So where are we?
Right. So, Dave, location-wise, where is Isengard on the map?
Isengard is, I believe, at the northwest of Rohan, or the lands of Rohan, just to the west of the bottom of Fangorn Forest. So it lies on the Fangorn Forest lies on our doorstep. Burn it.
Very good, yes.
So yeah, in around that kind of corner, but it's within the lands of Rohan, essentially, or at the corner.
That yes, well done, well done. Now again, it's difficult for people if you're not looking at a map. I am looking at a map, and so it's
I'm visualizing it right here.
If everyone tries to visualize the map of Middle Earth in their mind's eye, and basically there is a huge expanse of mountains just running straight down the middle and then curving off right, going over towards Mordor. Down at the bottom of that line, before it curves right, there is a little gap, and that is the Gap of Rohan. Now, basically, Isengard and the Tower of Orthanc, they are just based right at the southern point of those mountains, and then to the right hand side you will see the huge forest of Fangorn, and then above that, north of that again, you'll see the forest of LotR. So it's basically, it's right in and we hear about the Gap of Rohan a lot in the movies especially, and they're all kind of going, we must make for the Gap of Rohan. Boromir especially is saying that that's where we need to go. So what is the Gap of Rohan? It's basically one of the easiest ways to get from the west of the map into the east of the map, because the Misty Mountains are just cutting off the whole thing, and there's this one sort of flat land area between the mountains. That is the Gap of Rohan. And why is that significant? It's significant because Isengard is right there, kind of just looking out and keeping an eye on this Gap of Rohan. So if the company had gone there, the Company of the Ring, if they had gone that way, they would have been spotted by Saruman, basically. And Dave's right as well that Rohan then that's all in the area of Rohan. But I suppose if you want to know exactly, Edoras, I suppose, is a little bit just down and to the right of that, so a little bit southeast of Isengard on that same map there. So that's its location, and again, it's quite an important location, just strategically situated, I suppose. As I said, it's got that Gap of Rohan that it's looking at. It's also got, as we mentioned before, the Fords of Isen. This is another very, very important, just kind of, I suppose, any big towns and cities in the real world as well that are built, they're always built on these river edges, and maybe where the river is at a point where it's pooling out into lakes and things like that. So again, this is no exception. The Fords of Isen are important for industry and for things like that. If you want to be able to house loads of people in your little towns and all that kind of stuff, you need to have access to water. So strategically, it is in a good location. But moving on again a little bit, the actual appearance and the look of this place, and how did it come to be in this location? We know that Isengard was built in the Second Age, okay, by the Númenóreans. And Dave, remind us, who are the Númenóreans?
The Númenóreans are kind of the ancestors of men who live on the island of Númenor, which is way back in the Second Age before it's eventually sunken, and it was an island gifted by the elves. And they're kind of like the Númenóreans, like Aragorn comes from the line of kings in Númenor, so that line or that heritage would have been kind of, not fully human, but with like extra secret powers.
Yeah. They go on to the Dunedain Rangers that we then see in the Lord of the Rings, both movies and books. We get to see that they are, as Dave said, they are down from the line of these Númenóreans. So we know that they're great men. If you've watched season 1 of The Rings of Power, you'll have seen that we spent a little bit of time in Númenor. They are these, they are men effectively, but they're
supposed to be like with taller, faster, stronger as well, like much taller.
They're like, they're kind of supercharged men basically. They could live to be hundreds and hundreds of years.
They're like a bunch of Captain Americas.
That's that's actually quite a good representation.
Captain Middle Earth.
Very good. Captain Númenor. So just to read a small quote here from the Two Towers book, chapter The Road to Isengard. It says, "Partly it was shaped in the making of the mountains, but mighty works the men of Westernesse had wrought there of old." So it's reading that again. It says, partly it was shaped in the making of the mountains. So basically they're speaking about its location again, and it's almost built into the mountains, so it's really, really well guarded, and it's, you know, really well protected. It's almost like, you know, think of Helm's Deep, where it's just this fortress that has this mountain behind it as well. We don't really get to see too much in the movies of how it is. We do get to see that there's the forest of Fangorn right in front of it as well, but we don't really get to see that it is an extremely mountainous area as well. I suppose maybe we get that one shot of Saruman up on top of the pinnacle while he's shouting to the mountains, and the lads are trying to get over the Red Horn on Caradhras.
Yeah, like we see that. We also see, I suppose, when Treebeard is releasing the water and the stream is coming all the way down the mountains. But from the book description, it says that it's kind of built into the mountains. I assume that's not the Tower of Orthanc. That's Isengard. But even
sorry, it's not. Yeah, the tower itself isn't actually just
middle.
pushed up against the mountains. It's like the whole land of Isengard and that whole ring, basically.
I suppose Peter Jackson did change that, because we do see a complete circular, like full ring, of the walls around Isengard. But yeah, I don't know. Is the end of the wall, is that the end of Isengard, or?
Yes, pretty much.
Right,
Pretty much,
yeah.
yeah. So we're going to get into the actual layout now of Isengard and the kind of security that it had. Because, you know, I was like, I wonder what kind of security it has, because we just see Gandalf, like in the first movie, just rocks up to the front door, and Saruman's just coming down the stairs. He's like, oh my god, I'm just getting out of my nightie. How did you get here? I didn't hear you ringing the doorbell.
Where were the security guards? They were like, not tonight, mate. Go get a McDonald's and come back in half an hour.
And Wormtongue as well, he just kind of just shows up and is like, all right, fair enough. But what kind of security did they have? So I'm going to read another.
He was friends with the bouncers, though.
He knew the secret password. So just reading again from that same chapter that I read before, from the chapter 8 in the Two Towers book, The Road to Isengard. A great ring wall of stone, like towering cliffs, stood out from the shelter of the mountainside, from which it ran and then returned again. One entrance only was there made in it. A great arch delved in the southern wall. Here, through the black rock, a long tunnel had been hewn, closed at either end with mighty doors of iron. They were so wrought and poised upon their huge hinges, posts of steel driven into the living stone, that when unbarred, they could be moved with a light thrust of the arms noiselessly. One who passed in and came at length out of the echoing tunnel beheld a plain, a great circle, somewhat hollowed like a vast shallow bowl. A mile it measured from rim to rim. Once it had been green and filled with avenues and groves of fruitful trees, watered by streams that flowed from the mountains to a lake, but no green thing grew there in the latter days of Saruman. The roads were paved with stone flags, dark and hard, and beside their borders, instead of trees, there marched long lines of pillars, some marble, some of copper, and of iron joined by heavy chains. Many houses there were, chambers, halls, and passages, cut and tunnelled back into the walls upon their inner side, so that all the open circle was overlooked by countless windows and dark doors. Thousands could dwell there, workers, servants, slaves, and warriors, with great store of arms. Wolves were fed and stabled in deep dens beneath. So that's quite a detailed explanation there of the surroundings of this area. And there's some really cool things there that I want to just kind of go back on. I love talking about I love the way he explains and he describes the great doors, these mighty doors of iron, and that they were so created that they could be moved with a light thrust of the arms, and they moved noiselessly. That's a very, very cool little detail, isn't it? So you can just imagine these huge doors of enormous weight. And if you think, well, obviously that means it's going to be a massive effort. You're going to need a couple of trolls to open them, like for Barad-dûr.
Yeah.
It's like here you just give them a light shove with your arm and they noiselessly creep open. They've got the WD-40 working there very well, I suppose.
Yeah, a touch of that and maybe a little hint of magic as well. It is really cool, and that's one of the details that's, I suppose, that was kind of something that didn't jump out at me as much, because every other part of that description just sounded so similar to Peter Jackson's idea of it. And it's incredible because that description really paints an image in your head. And the image I was thinking, I was actually not trying to think of it, but I was like, yeah, that sounds exactly like Peter Jackson's version of it. Apart from like the marble and copper pillars, that was a cool little extra
yeah, it's
thing
a cool detail. And again, just basically this there's this enormous wall that basically it just circumnavigates this entire area, and it has a huge tunnel that goes through it to get into this area.
Yeah.
And it basically just says, and also when you read this, it says, one who passed in and came at length out of the echoing tunnel. Now, if you've read much of Tolkien, you know that he uses this expression at length a lot. And basically just means it took a long time to do this. So when he says someone passed at length out of the echoing tunnel, it just basically means that you walk into this tunnel and it takes you quite a long time to get through it and to get out the other side. So that's thick. Just through, that's a tunnel through the exterior wall.
Yeah.
And it's like, how deep was this wall just to get into the actual grounds?
True. It's probably more than just a wall. It's probably like within the wall. There's
this is the part that's probably built into the mountain side. You see.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah, but it is okay. It's very different to Peter Jackson's just the exterior wall. Anyways, it's probably a lot thicker at other places. It's also built into the mountain, so it's not a perfect.
So again, the first quote that I read a couple of moments ago was, partly it was shaped in the making of the mountains, but mighty works the men of Westerness had wrought there of old. So again, it's saying that it's almost like coming out of the mountain, this circular ring that forms the exterior of Isengard. But it's almost like it looks like it's part of the mountain, but then you can see, clearly the men of Westerness, they had wrought mighty work there. And again, the men of Westerness, that's just another way of speaking of these old legends of men, these people from Numenor who became the Dunedain and then basically were fantastic people. And Isildur is one of those people.
Captain Middle-earth. Yeah.
Isildur! So that is Isengard. And again, remember, Isengard is the larger area. But we are now going to look at the main focus and the thing that is built right at the center of Isengard. Ooh. And what was that, Dave?
That was the Tower of Orthanc itself.
The Tower of Orthanc, exactly. And you beautifully described it earlier on. So Orthanc, again, remember, if you're not sure, it is the huge black tower where Saruman lives, and it was constructed out of 4 piers of stone and then hardened by an unknown process. Ooh. Basically, is what we're told. No weaponry or magic that existed in Middle-earth was known to be able to harm it, until the Ents that besieged Isengard during the War of the Ring managed to inflict slight damage on the tower. That was only like minuscule. They could barely scratch the surface. And we saw when Grima Wormtongue later threw the Palantir of Orthanc from a high window, it fell on the stairs, causing part of the staircase to break. So that was quite a big deal. That was noted down as like, this is a really, really important thing, because the actual Palantir was strong enough to be thrown and would actually crack the side of the stairs of Orthanc, which is like nothing else. Like, as I said, a siege of Ents could only just barely do a little bit of damage. We actually get to see a scene in the books where Gandalf and all the guys, they show up at Isengard after the battle with the Ents, and the entire place is just completely in ruins. They describe it, or Tolkien describes it very vividly, and it's just like, it's like a bomb has hit the whole place, and then the tower is perfectly intact and perfectly fine, and it looks like there's just the very slightest bit of damage to it. So it's like the amount of damage and destruction these Ents and these huge beings are able to cause to like the ground and the earth and everything around it. It's like there was an earthquake, and the tower is just like, we got a little scratch. That's fantastic. So the only entrance to the tower was reached by a stair of 27 steps, and this door was the only way in, and it could only be opened using a key, which was very aptly called the Key of Orthanc. Yeah. So nothing too fancy there. Now, what's one really cool thing about this tower? It's really cool that it's got this huge wide expanse around it, and then it's just this giant tower just coming up, and it's like, if you see a skyscraper in a city where there's only one skyscraper and everything else is like a 1-story building, it's going to make it look even more massive and even more giant. So how tall was this tower in reality, Dave? What do you think?
I've seen those images before. I'm trying to think now, and I'm going to say definitely taller than the Eiffel Tower, but
I'm going to play a game with you.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to play a game with you. Okay. So the game that we're going to play is, I'm going to give you a list of landmarks, okay?
Okay.
And I have a list of a whole load of them, but I'm going to do 5, okay? Just because we're going to take 5, I'm going to give them to you in no particular order, and I want you to list the correct order going from the lowest to the tallest building.
Okay.
Or the lowest to tallest landmark. Okay.
Right.
So we'll start off with number one. Number one is Orthanc. Okay. Number two, the Pyramid of Giza. Number three, the Statue of Liberty. Number four, the Eiffel Tower. And number five, Big Ben.
Oh God.
So, I'll just list them again quickly.
So
you've got
close.
Orthanc, you've got the Pyramid of Giza, you've got the Statue of Liberty, you've got the Eiffel Tower, and Big Ben. So again, they are quite close. So give me just off the top of your head, which ones do you think would be the tallest or the shortest?
The one that's really throwing me now is the pyramid, because I like, to me, I'm like, that could be the tallest, it could be the smallest, but no, it's definitely not the smallest. Right, I'm gonna start off with Statue of Liberty, number one, as in the smallest, and then I'm gonna say, okay, I'm just gonna say them quickly. I'm gonna say Statue of Liberty, I'm gonna say Eiffel Tower, Big Ben, Orthanc, then the Pyramid of Giza.
Okay, pretty close, but you're way off.
Am I?
I think you threw yourself before we even started the game by saying, "Oh, I'm pretty sure it's way bigger than the Eiffel Tower."
Oh, is it? It's smaller.
The Eiffel Tower is more than double than any of them. Like,
oh, really? Than any of them?
the Eiffel Tower is enormous. You've been to the Eiffel Tower. It's absolutely ridiculously huge.
Oh, right, okay. But I can recall like images of. I feel like I always see the Eiffel Tower in these scales where it's like, check out this thing, and it's always near the bottom of the scale.
Shows
like,
you'll
see the Eiffel Tower,
like
then you'll see the Burj Khalifa, and then you'll see a dragon.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. It's usually Lord
and
of the Rings
Callaghan the
scales.
Black.
Exactly. Okay. I threw myself off.
Right.
There.
Okay.
Just
okay.
like I should
don't worry.
throw
Don't
myself
worry.
off the Tower of Orthanc.
Basically, yeah. Now, again, yeah. So if you think, oh, it's got to be way bigger than the Eiffel Tower, no, I'm sorry, you're wrong. The Eiffel Tower is enormous. But again, when you're seeing an image of the Eiffel Tower, very often you see it in the context of a city. You see it like there's a whole city, there's huge tall buildings, and then there's just the Eiffel Tower, dwarfing everything else.
Stupid, David.
I'm going to start with three other ones that I didn't even mention before. So we're going to start with the shortest thing on the list. The shortest thing on my list was the Colosseum in Rome at 157 feet. Then we have Niagara Falls, which is 167 feet. Then moving up, we have the Leaning Tower of Pisa at 183 feet. Now, you were correct with the shortest thing on the list, which was the Statue of Liberty. That is 310 feet tall. Coming in just 6 feet taller than the Statue of Liberty is Big Ben, standing at 316 feet. Then we have the Pyramid of Giza, which is 481. So a bit of a jump there, 481 feet. Now, Orthanc we are told that it's over 500 feet tall. And then finally, we have the Eiffel Tower, which is 1,083 feet.
Okay, wow, yeah.
So Eiffel Tower is quite enormous. But so Orthanc, this Tower of Orthanc, it's taller than the Colosseum, Niagara Falls, the Leaning Tower of Pisa, Statue of Liberty, Big Ben, and the Pyramid of Giza. So it is a massive structure. And now, again, so I've said there it's 500 feet, but that's also stated only as the height of the, quote, narrow space where a man can stand above the plane of Isengard. So that's not taking into account the four corner shards that stick up. Yeah, the big spikes. So also, if you look at Tolkien's design for the tower, and if you do a little bit of scaling, you'll probably see that it'd probably be closer to around 600 feet than if you add on those little corner pieces as well. Now, also keep in mind that this is a pre-modern world where hobbits are in awe by a 3-story inn, and the Argonath, the big giant statues of the men of old when they see that they're going down the river, that's probably about 120 feet. Again, I'm doing a lot of feet, so in meters, that's about 35, 40 meters. So that's probably about 120 feet, and both Sam and Frodo are distressed by seeing this, and also the Deeping Wall is only about 20 feet, and it's considered by the men of Rohan to be, quote, a work of giants. So that's 20 feet tall. A work of giants is what it's considered. Again, this is back in, like, as I said, it's before the modern times. So we shouldn't start thinking, oh, well, the Burj Khalifa and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
it's like, we need to understand that this is an enormous structure. And so it's really, really quite a significant landmark in this area. And as we mentioned there a couple of times, the pinnacle of Orthanc, obviously just the very, very tip of this tower. And it says that its corners were razor-edged points with room for at least 2 men to stand. Quick question, Dave. What's the main part of the movie that we get to see the pinnacle of Orthanc?
Which movie? The first movie? Because the first one would be...
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, the first one is when Gandalf is obviously captured up there. And then he is saved eventually by Gwaihir. But I was also thinking of like Saruman's execution in the final movie.
Oh yeah, that. I suppose that's a good point. But pinnacle. I was going to ask you mainly, the pinnacle of the movie. So Gandalf was up on that rooftop. He only had about the space. It says there was space for at least 2 men to stand. So he didn't really have much space to be pacing over and back. How long was he up there?
Oh, he was up there for a good 2 days or 3 days, was it?
A bit more than that.
Really? Oh, was he? How long was he delayed? A week? 2?
A bit more.
More than 2 weeks? Jeez. Okay, final answer. 8 years. A month?
Double it.
2 months.
2 months.
Don't know why I made that singular.
Gandalf.
2 months.
2 months. So yeah, that's just something to note as well. Like Gandalf spent 2 months on the pinnacle of Orthanc, up on the roof.
Standing.
He must have been doing a bit of roofing while he was up there.
Yeah, exactly. He must have been so sunburned at the end of that.
Oh, but that's why he wears his like wide-rimmed hat.
Yeah, well, I just imagine a roofer with his top off, brown leathery skin, working away.
So that's it. That's the Tower of Orthanc. It's quite a cool building. Anyway, there's one other thing as well that I was reading up on. I can't remember where I read this the other day, but just something else that came to my mind there. That just not about the tower itself, but actually about coming into Isengard and about the exterior walls and things like that. That it was so Gandalf escapes from the pinnacle of Orthanc, as you said, on the eagle Gwaihir, and just 2 days after that, Sauron sent the Nazgul to go and visit Saruman, and they needed to quiz him on some details, and Saruman basically didn't let them into Isengard, and they couldn't get through the gate, so they weren't able to. It says that they weren't able to assail the ring of Isengard, and not that they were like against each other massively, but basically he didn't, provide the courtesy of allowing them in to come and speak to him face to face. They came to the gate, and it says that Saruman's voice spoke to them from the very gate. So that's kind of cool as well. So again, like Saruman,
so he had one of those like little ring things where he's like, "Sorry, who is it?" And they're just like, "We're here to ask about the ring." He's like, "Sorry, I'm just picking up the groceries. I'll be back in about half an hour. Is that all right? Does that suit you?" And they're like, "No, we have other things to do in the meantime."
Yeah. We're looking for Mr. Saruman. Can he come out to play?
No Saruman here. Sorry. Sorry, who are you now?
Yeah. They got through to Saruman's ma'am.
Hello? Who is it?
Another thing, Dave, that's a bit of a misconception or a bit of a question that a lot of people would have after watching the films, maybe if they've just seen the films for the first time, is we get to see a little battle sequence between the two wizards in Orthanc, and we see this weird kind of telekinesis battle, but then we also see Saruman kind of lift Gandalf in this spinning motion. He goes fired up to the roof, and then suddenly the next time we see Gandalf, he is on the pinnacle and on the roof. How did he get? Like, I was always like, did he go so fast that he like went through the roof and then he ended up on top there? Like, how did he get up there? And how do you access the pinnacle, I suppose? And did Gandalf go up and go through the roof?
I think, the answer for that whole wizard battle is it never happened. But yeah, that's what
Gandalf likes to say anyway.
Yeah.
Gandalf, remember you got your ass kicked by Saruman? No, that never happened. I swear.
Remember that time, Gandalf, you were so drunk and your head was in the toilet and that never happened. Yeah,
He
that
just
was
does a Jedi mind trick, like, yeah, that never happened.
that never happened in the book. That was a deadly inclusion by Peter Jackson, where they have this total wizard battle. But yeah, to answer your question of how you get onto the pinnacle, I think in the book it describes Saruman just walking him up there. He just brings him up, I assume, steps, and you get out onto the pinnacle, and Bob's your uncle. Gandalf's your wizard. You're on the pinnacle of Isengard.
Yeah, that's
little
the
door.
correct genius answer. There's stairs up to the
Yeah.
top. So it says
The
there is
elevator.
a singular stair. And when Gandalf is telling this part of the story at the Council of Elrond, he says, quote, "They took me and they set me alone on the pinnacle of Orthanc, in the place where Saruman was accustomed to watch the stars. There is no descent save by a narrow stair of many thousand steps, and the valley below seems far away." So there you go, many
took me.
thousand steps.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, I suppose Saruman's guards. Like Saruman was just like, my minions do my work.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Yeah, very cool. It's what you assume. I don't know why Peter Jackson changed all that, but it was pretty cool. But yeah, I always had that image in my head of Gandalf just going right up into the roof, and that's almost like the culmination of this whole fight is him just getting smashed into the roof, and the next thing he's like on the roof, and you're like, oh, how did you do that? Did you do a little switcheroony there? But yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, I guess we'll never know.
No.
We gotta get Peter Jackson to release the what's it called, the
Mithril
gold-
edition.
Mithril edition.
Yeah,
Yes,
well, that's what
Maybe
Nerd
it's
of the
in there.
Rings is. He's going
he's-
for the
he's
whole time.
entitled to this, is it?
Yeah, he's made up that
Mithril
name, and
edition.
I think he's like trying to raise money for it, or get a petition signed to release the Mithril cut.
He's got that copyrighted now.
Yeah.
The Mithril edition. He's gonna get a little payday every time somebody.
And I've
does
signed
Mithril
it as well, so Matt, you can.
Oh,
thank
so
me.
I have too. Yeah,
Have
yeah,
you?
I have as well. Yeah. Oh
Deadly.
God, yeah.
Come on, Matt.
Gotta get behind any petition that Matt puts out. I'm like, I'm there. I'm with
Yeah,
you.
exactly.
Right, so we're going to get into the history now of Orthanc and of Isengard. So in the Second Age, that's when this tower and this area was constructed, but the exact date of construction of Orthanc and the establishment of Isengard is untold. However, it was likely built between 3320 and 3430 of the Second Age. That's the time of the establishment of Arnor and Gondor, and then the second date I gave you was the last alliance of elves and men. So it's reasonable to assume that between the times that Arnor and Gondor are established, and then also the final battle, sometime in that period. So
Good
towards the
estimation.
end, towards the end of the Second Age. So within the fortified walls of the tower was placed one of the Palantiri, the Stone of Orthanc, as it was called. Thus, Orthanc was now known as one of the 7 towers of the Dunedain, housing the 7th Seeing Stone brought back from Numenor by Elendil. So, again, this is probably something that we're going to get to see at some point in the upcoming series of the Rings of Power, in maybe this season, maybe next season, I'm not too sure. But at some point, Elendil is going to come onto the mainland, I suppose, and he's going to bring with him a load of goodies. He's going to bring with him a couple of the Palantir, and he's going to establish the kingdoms of Arnor and Gondor, and I'm looking forward to seeing that play out.
Me too.
Yeah. So that was the history of the Second Age. Before we move on to more history, I've got a quick little game here. Now,
Love games.
I've got a quote game, Dave.
Oh no.
We like our quote games on this podcast. Now, what I'm going to do is I've got a whole load of quotes. I'm just going to throw in a few quotes here and there as we go on through this podcast, just to kind of break it up. So what we're going to do here is I've gone through the script from the 3 films, and I've found every time they've mentioned Isengard. I'm not using every one of them because that would just be way too much, but I did look for my favorite ones. And basically, I'm going to give you a quote that contains the word Isengard, and I'm going to ask you for either the next line or the line that came before that or something like that. Okay. Mm-hmm. So we're going to just do a couple here now, and then we're going to maybe do some more later on. So the first one is the following. The hour grows late, and Gandalf the Grey rides to Isengard. Can you continue and complete the quote?
Oh, I thought you were looking for who it was. Oh, okay. Wait, say it one more time. I think I
Okay.
got this.
The hour grows late, and Gandalf the Grey rides to Isengard.
To seek my counsel? Do you not?
Very, very good. Okay. Seeking my counsel is what he says. Well done. Well
Okay.
done. Now, there's there's a full stop, and there's a next
Oh.
short sentence. For
that is why you have come, is it not?
my
My old friend.
good. Well done. 10 out of 10. I didn't help you at all. No, that was really good. That was really
Cool.
good. So just one more time, that full quote is, the hour grows late, and Gandalf the Grey rides to Isengard, seeking my counsel. For that is why you have come, is it not, my
And
old
like
friend?
just before it goes to for that is why you have come, that's when he's like stops speaking into the microphone and it's actually like the onset.
Yeah.
'Cause
Exactly. I
really-
always love that as well, the way it shifts over. The voice sounds different
Yeah.
as well. Yeah. So the first part is him narrating the scene, I suppose,
Yeah.
as Gandalf is coming. And it's like he's narrating it for the audience and for Gandalf.
Yeah.
And then Gandalf arrives and he's like, that's why you're here, isn't it? Am I right? Am I right? Did I get that right?
Or
I
it's
got
like
it right.
it's in his mind voice and suddenly Gandalf just arrives and he's like, for that is why you have come, is it not, my old friend? And Gandalf's like, huh? Man, I'm just after riding for like 4 days. What the hell are you on about?
That's so funny. It's like, he's speaking to the audience and he's like, so Gandalf the Grey rides to Isengard. And they just like, there's no context. And Gandalf arrives and the first thing he says, instead of saying, how are you, Gandalf? How are you getting on? He just says, for that is why you have come, is it not? Gandalf's like, have I been smoking loads of Old Toby? Or what's
Yeah,
going
like
on?
I came to this guy for counsel and he is completely nuts.
Yeah, exactly. So, no counsel shall be found here. Right, moving on. One more quote, Dave, and then we're going to just keep going. So, the next quote is, he's breeding an army in the caverns of Isengard.
God,
I'll give you a little bit more.
Yeah.
So, he's breeding an army in the caverns of Isengard. An army that can...
Okay, right. So it's Aragorn, I think. He's breeding an army in the what of Isengard?
In the caverns of Isengard.
An army fit for one purpose. No, an army built.
You're getting mixed up. An
No.
army that can move.
Oh right, okay. An army that can move in daylight,
Sunlight, yes.
in sunlight,
And cover.
and cover many miles.
Close enough.
And cover. I don't know. I know the gist of what he's trying to say. They can move through sunlight. They can cover great distances.
Well done. Cover great distance at speed.
At speed. An army
And
built
then
for one
at-
purpose: to end the world of men and women, and child.
Yeah,
Correct. Well
more
done,
or less.
Dave.
Not really, no. Who says this, Dave?
Aragorn.
No.
Oh, Theoden.
No.
Legolas.
Gandalf.
What? Okay, rejig me.
Yeah, that's what I'm
What's going
saying. You're confused between the Aragorn quote and the Gandalf quote. So Aragorn, at a totally different point, says that the army is built for one purpose, because he's arguing with Theoden about they're not coming to destroy the crops and all that kind of stuff. They're here to destroy the world of men. This is Gandalf when he's speaking to Elrond in Rivendell, and he says, they're talking about Saruman. And it's the first time he tells Elrond that Saruman is actually not their friend anymore. And he says, his treachery runs deeper than you know. By foul craft, Saruman has crossed orcs with goblin men. He's breeding an army in the caverns of Isengard, an army that can move in sunlight and cover great distance at speed. Saruman is coming for the ring. So,
geez, yeah.
Pretty cool quote.
That is cool, but I feel like I wasn't picturing Gandalf tall. And
Yeah, that was a more difficult one now. That was a more
Yeah.
difficult one. So I'll give you a pass on that one.
we'll edit that out.
Yeah, exactly. Don't worry. We won't let any of the listeners know
So-
that you're not perfect when it comes to quote.
And when I listen back to this, I won't be hearing that at all. So, A1.
You will not.
Thanks
You
for
will not.
editing
Don't
that one
worry.
out, Johnny.
Your confidence will be unshaken. Right. Okay. Well done, Dave. 10 out of 10. Good job. So, moving on. So we're going to go back into the history a little bit more. We're going to move into the Third Age. So remember, I was telling you before in the Second Age, in 3340, I believe it was the founding of Arnor and Gondor, and then about 120 years later was the end of the Second Age. So somewhere in that period, Isengard is formed. So the Third Age, Isengard suffered greatly during the Great Plague, and the garrison steadily dwindled through this age, and eventually the tower was closed and locked, and its keys were taken to Minas Tirith to be kept by the stewards of Gondor. And so just basically no one lived there anymore. It just became deserted.
A haunted house.
Maybe a bit of a haunted house, but I don't know if it became like derelict either, but it was just like, it was just empty, and people were starting to move in and raid and things like that as well. But eventually in the year 2710 of the Third Age, again, this is, so almost 3,000 years into the Third Age, the captains of the fortress died out. So again, there were captains that still hung out in that area, but they eventually died. And then with no defenses, Isengard came under control of the Dunlendings. While they held the fortress, using it as base for attacks on the Westfold, they could not gain access to the impenetrable tower. So again, this is, a really, really important area, strategic location. It's really, really good. And suddenly it's the Dunlendings who are in control of this area. Now, again, they couldn't get into the tower itself, but they were living in and around this. They were living inside the walls of Isengard. Think of like any castle that you've ever seen that's like a huge castle. They always have the kind of, they have the keep, but then they also have the grounds outside. They have the main wall. Then very often they have a moat, and then they have the keep. But the area outside the keep is still usually quite well protected. There's usually a wall or a couple of walls that are protected as well. So again,
even just
the Dunlendings were all living there.
Think of like King's Landing, for example. That's like a much larger scale version where you've got like the keep with the royals, and then just outside that you would have like, I don't know, your lords and stuff, but there'd be gated lands, but people could still come in, access, get your food, and then outside that is just like the rest of the city where the peasants are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so again, the Dunlendings, the kind of wild men, they were in control of that. And following the long winter in the year 2758, the Dunlendings were besieged and starved into surrender by the Rohirrim king Frealaf. Then the wizard Saruman put in an offer for the control of Isengard, and both King Frealaf and the steward Beren, who was the steward of Minas Tirith at the time, they both embraced this proposition with open arms. So then basically Saruman agreed. Saruman was handed the keys. Imagine for free. Like, he was just like, I reckon I could do a good job just, in the upkeep of that house. It's like, oh, thank you, sir. You are
God, he did have a silver tongue, didn't he? That was his best asset. I will take this burden from you. Yeah.
Poor Frodo, the only time he said, I will take it, is to take this, like, demon ring that he has to go on the quest to end his own life. And Saruman was like, I will take the keys to the most beautiful tower in all the land. So that's how he came into control of the tower. He basically just asked for it, and he was given it. If you don't ask, you don't get.
That's very
what
true.
They tell you.
That's very true.
So now Saruman's offer had also partially been motivated by the presence of the Palantir. It wasn't really common knowledge, but he was pretty certain at that time that there was a Palantir somewhere in that tower, and he was right. And he began using this straight away, pretty much behind his allies' back. And after using this, the wizard was ensnared by the Dark Lord, obviously, and he ended up kind of becoming his vassal, I suppose. Seeking to become a ruler of Middle-earth at Sauron's side or in place, Saruman took Orthanc for his own in 2953. Having allied with the orcs of the Misty Mountains and the Dunlendings, he began assembling an army around Orthanc. So that's just another thing that was happening.
An army built for one purpose. To destroy the world of men.
Well done, David.
Children.
You are on fire. Okay, Dave, I'll give you a chance to redeem yourself. I've got a couple more quotes coming at you. Right. So, okay, I have a quote here. I'm just going to see which do I want to give you. Okay. We do not have the strength to fight both Mordor and Isengard. Gandalf.
I know that line.
Who is it? Who is it?
Oh, Theoden. What? We do not have the... Say it one more time.
Okay. We do not have the strength to fight both Mordor and Isengard. Who else is a leader of a different race.
Elrond. Elrond says it to Gandalf. Okay, right.
It's from the same scene.
Oh, sorry,
as
you're looking
I
for more.
read before. I'm looking for the next part. So he says, what does he say about
Then Gandalf says, "Don't tempt me, Elrond."
Right, okay. So he says, we do not have the strength to fight both Mordor and Isengard.
I know.
Gandalf, the
finger.
Okay. I'm trying to just do hand gestures to help Dave out.
What are you? The ring? All right. Okay. Sorry. Gandalf, the ring does not belong in Rivendell. Yeah.
We're terrible at charades.
The ring cannot stay here.
Exactly. That's it. The ring cannot stay here. So, going back at that quote one more time, we do not have the strength to fight both Mordor and Isengard. Gandalf, the ring cannot stay here.
Right. Can I just also say, for people that aren't watching, the clue I was given was a circle with one of Johnny's hand and a finger going repeatedly through the circle from the other hand. So I didn't know what was happening here.
I was trying to decide putting a ring on my finger, and then I was
usually not
pointing at this location here, and I was shaking my finger saying, no, the ring cannot stay here.
I thought you were saying, see this finger? It's not supposed to repeatedly go into this hole. Right, okay. So the ring cannot stay here.
Moving on. I'll give you one more quote.
Right, okay.
So, the power of Isengard is at your command, Sauron
the Great.
Nope. I'm looking for a title, though.
Okay, say it again.
The power of Isengard is at your command, Sauron, Lord
of the Rings. Lord.
He said the thing. Again, now this again it's not easy. It's not easy. This is a complicated one. He gives him a weird title, not a weird title, but it's a title that you never hear before or after.
Okay.
He calls him Lord of something.
Oh, okay. Give me the whole thing one more time.
The power of Isengard is at your command, Sauron, Lord
of the Ashes. No. I don't know.
Nope, you're thinking of Cersei. Not Cersei, you're thinking of Daenerys again. He calls him Sauron, Lord of the Earth.
Wow, yeah.
To all of our listeners that got that one, congratulations. Pat yourselves on the back.
And
well
you're
done.
lying. You're all Lord of the Liars.
Right, okay. That is tough. These are tough now, these little ones.
These are Peter Jackson and Fran.
Sure, yeah. If it was Tolkien, you wouldn't miss. Yeah, you wouldn't miss.
It'd be Middle Earth.
Right. Moving on then, in the Third Age, the year 3018, Gandalf rode to Isengard to take counsel with Saruman, and it was then that the corrupted wizard declared his true intentions to rule together with the Dark Lord. Gandalf refused Saruman's offer to join with Sauron or to reveal the One Ring's whereabouts, and subsequently Saruman held Gandalf captive on Orthanc's pinnacle until he told of the ring's whereabouts or until Sauron won the War of the Ring. And after many weeks of imprisonment, Gwaihir, the Lord of the Eagles, came and he saw Gandalf on top and he just bore him away. So that's the next stages of what happened in the life of Isengard, I suppose. Then only a few months later, the Ents of Fangorn Forest launched their attack on Isengard.
Nice.
And by the next day, only the Tower of Orthanc remained, as it was hewn of one piece of impenetrable rock, and the plains below had been completely destroyed, leaving a desolate land of water and mud. 3 days after the battle, Theoden, Éomer, Gandalf, Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli approached Orthanc, past a desolation of wreckage caused by the Ents, and climbed its stair. They parleyed with the Dark Lord's puppet, who remained inside the tower and spoke to them from a balcony above the door. After Saruman refused to cooperate and attempted to sway the Rohirrim, riding with them, Gandalf expelled him from both the Order of Wizards and the White Council, breaking Saruman's staff. After the confrontation, Saruman's footman, Grima Wormtongue, who was inside the tower at the time, threw the stone of Orthanc at the party outside as a parting shot, missing both Saruman and Gandalf. Several months later, Saruman was able to convince Treebeard to release him and Grima, and Treebeard demanded and receive the keys of Orthanc from Saruman. He would hand them over to their rightful owner, King Elisar, when Aragorn later visited Isengard. So that's all the history of what happened in the Third Age. Now, there's not a huge amount of things that happened in the Fourth Age. I'll give you one quick quote, Dave, before we get into the Fourth Age. But,
okay.
So, the Uruks turn... they're taking the hobbits to Isengard. So there's a direction. What direction do they turn? According to Legolas. Before he says, they are taking the hobbits to Isengard. Again, listeners, you need to play along. See if you can get this answer. And I'm sure you're definitely going to get it before Dave. So,
well, I have my answer.
What's your answer?
East.
You are correct, but it's east.
Oh. West east. No, just kidding. The southeast.
50-50, and you got it wrong. Northeast. Yeah.
Turn northeast.
But they were turning in an easterly direction. So good job.
Yeah, of course. That doesn't make any sense to go southeast. Southeast would be if they're in the mountain. Stupid.
Yeah,
Dave.
to go southeast, they would have been up on top of they would have been in the mountains.
They were just on the west of the Gap of Rohan at that point. Well, like they're in the Gap of Rohan.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, exactly. Well done. Come on, Dave.
Come on.
Get it together. Yeah.
I have a quick question there, though.
Yeah.
Well, not about the quote. Let's edit that out and pretend that never happened. And let's just say
we're gonna have to edit out a lot of this podcast, Dave.
Okay, so Treebeard gets the keys of Orthanc, which is weird, but we both knew that anyways. And then he hands them over to King Elisar. So Aragorn's obviously living in Minas Tirith and the lands of Gondor.
Large.
Yeah, but like he's just got this condo over in Isen. But like
holiday home.
Yeah, but what's the point? Like, so the place is basically unoccupied again, but Aragorn goes over. It's kind of like
he's a landlord, Dave. He's just going to put a crazy rent price on that property and be like, right, I'm just going to watch the money roll in.
He's going to be like the landlords of the 1950s Dublin, like housing all these tenements and just, you know, having like 20,000 families in the Tower of Orthanc and be like, yeah, that seems right. But it was abandoned again, so it was going to be another derelict tower.
Look, I'll get to that in a few moments. Well, actually, here we're going to look at the Fourth Age now. We're going to look at one or two small paragraphs. It's very, very short, but in the Fourth Age, one of Elisar's first tasks, Elisar, aka Aragorn, one of his first tasks he had set was the restoration of Orthanc, and he ordered that the Palantir should be recovered and returned to the tower. Then Orthanc was searched, and many secrets were revealed. It was clear that Sauron's puppet had been hoarding many ancient treasures and heirlooms during this time.
Oh, yeah.
With the aid of Grima, Saruman had acquired many jewels and heirlooms belonging to the House of Earl. Soon, a hidden door was found by Gimli, and inside a casket they found two precious objects, one of which was a small gold case attached to a chain. This was used by Isildur to bear the One Ring. The second of which was the Elendilmere, the white star of elvish crystal upon a fillet of mithril that had been lost since Isildur's demise. Elisar received the Elendilmere with reverence and took it with him as he established his full kinship of Arnor. It was thus revealed that Saruman had found items worn by Isildur himself and was speculated to have found and burned Isildur's bones as an insult.
Oh, damn. Jesus, I don't remember any of this at all, Todd. That's class. The little case for the ring, and he found a fillet of fish or something.
A filet mignon.
He found some sort of fillet of mithril.
There was a fillet of mithril. Exactly. Yeah, delicious.
That sounds
mithril has another use.
Scrumptious.
And then this is there's one more little short paragraph. This is Orthanc and the plains of Isengard around it remained part of the reunited kingdom. However, King Elisar granted the Ents complete self-governance of the surrounding area and of the area surrounding the tower. This new forest became known as the Tree Garth of Orthanc. Now, there is a little bit more information that I'll get into just in a couple of moments, so to answer your other questions. But that's really cool that they've speculated that it was Saruman who found the last remains of Isildur, and he stole whatever stuff he had been wearing, a little box with a little ring on, with a little chain where he actually housed and kept the One Ring, and also this other important white star of elvish crystal, which is called the Elendil Mir, and he found that as well. And then also they're speculating that he had actually burned the bones and the remains of Isildur, which is pretty cool.
How did he do that now? Because Isildur was lost to the River Anduin, just like the ring. So,
well, I suppose Saruman had been searching the Anduin for the ring, hadn't he?
Yeah,
he was the one that said that said to the White Council, like, "Oh yeah, I'm 100% sure that the ring was in the Anduin and it's been lost, and it went down the Anduin and went out to the Great Sea, and it'll never be seen again."
Yeah,
take my word for it.
It's just crazy. And like before, he mentioned the part where he found the bones and the remains and burnt them as an insult. I was like, oh, it just sounds like Saruman was a really invested historian and collected all these items from different historians around the place, and then it was like, oh well, he burnt his remains. But still, like he wasn't like, none of those items could be used for evil. They could just evil. Yeah, he had them because they were nice and pretty. Gimli finding a secret door, isn't he such a dwarf?
I know, yeah. Yeah. It's like when you go to an escape room and you're like, oh my god, there's a little door over here, guys.
Yeah.
Go in searching for clues.
Dwarf doors are invisible when closed.
Yes, Gimli, their own masters cannot find them if their secrets are forgotten.
Why doesn't that surprise me?
Moving on. We're going to look quickly at something else here. So just wondering, Dave, is there any information in Tolkien's writing about how the Gondorians fashioned the stone of this impervious strength in building Orthanc and Minas Tirith's outer walls? Because remember, listeners, Minas Tirith's outer wall was also fashioned of the same stone, this black marble. So do we have any idea how he made that, or how they kind of fashioned it into a building?
My only fact I was going to bring to the table, which was that it was also used for the outer wall of Minas Tirith, the black wall. I don't know how it was fashioned. Oh, give me okay, so the rock came from Numenor, and Jesus, how'd they do that? Dragon fire. I don't know. Obviously it was something. Oh no, not mithril. They couldn't use mithril to bash away at it. Are you asking like how they fashioned the rock into a shape that they could actually...
Whatever you think, whatever you want the question to mean, because there's no answer, so I'm just hoping that you'll give me...
Oh, well, my next guess was going to be like fashion, as in how do they wear it? How do they fashion this rock? So, okay, great.
I'm going to fashion the hell out of this rock.
I'm fashioning it right now. Yeah, so there's no answer. Great.
Yeah, well, I was doing a bit of research and I was looking on like, I don't know, places like Reddit and Quora for different just bits and pieces that people were writing as well. So not just the actual correct lore, but also places where people were coming up with different things. And I found this cool answer to this question. So I'm just going to read this for you here. This is off Quora. And someone wrote and said, it helps to recall that the industrial power of Numenor was unimaginable in comparison to the technology and practices found in the waning Third Age of Middle-earth. Orthanc and Minas Tirith were built soon after the destruction of Numenor. They were founded and erected while the legacy and skill of Numenor was still commonplace in early Gondor. As time moved on, both the people and innovation of the civilization began to diminish compared to the heights of the Second Age of Middle-earth. This is why more recent constructs in the Third and Fourth Ages of Middle-earth are not as notable as the first buildings of Gondor. Men simply lack the ability of their forefathers to create such marvels. Be it magic or skill, Middle-earth becomes progressively more mundane through the ages, and the architectural achievements of men are no exception to this rule. In fact, following the War of the Ring, the majestic new gate of Minas Tirith is forged by Gimli's dwarves rather than Gondor's craftsmen. The price of giving rise to the Age of Men is that the wonders of the past are forever lost.
Wow.
So I thought that was interesting. And when I read that, I immediately thought of the real world situations where obviously we spoke before about the type of buildings that we have now in place. We have these like the Burj Khalifa and these just, the Empire State
But you don't have those beautiful architectural curves.
Well, yeah, that's one thing. Yeah, I was just in Toledo recently and in Madrid, or just south of Madrid, and the buildings are just incredible. You're walking through these streets, and every street there's just these carved arched doorways with gargoyles and
ornate,
things, all just
Romanesque,
really incredible
columns and stuff.
But
that kind of stuff.
So maybe we've lost a little bit of just the time and effort that would go into creating something like that. But then that's not necessarily the thing that I thought of first. I thought of things like Stonehenge and the pyramids, and these are things
I was thinking of Aztec stuff.
Yeah, well, things that basically, people have speculated that there's aliens involved in the creation of the pyramids and in Stonehenge, and that's the only explanation, because maybe now we have more modern technologies, we have more modern techniques and processes and more modern machinery, but
we're more stupider.
Well, there's that too. But there's also just things that there's unanswered questions, like how did they move these giant stones to form the pyramids? It's like we don't know. We've lost that skill or that magic or whatever it was in the past. So over the years, maybe we have advanced in our own ways, but we've just there's things that were like, they were way more efficient in moving giant rocks, thousands of years ago than we are now. So over time, maybe that's something that's more reflective of our own Earth and our own world. But something to think about.
I think like with Stonehenge, isn't it just the fact that those giant rocks are, I think
they're from Wales.
I was just about to say, they're from Wales. Like people have done studies on these rocks, and like that rock is only found in Wales, or it's certainly not found anywhere near that area. The nearest place
but
it's like
it's like over 100 miles away or something.
Yeah, and it's like
insane.
To carry one of these would take like, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of hours to like push it along logs and like loads of men and blah blah, and that's just one. Then multiply that by like another 30, or I don't know how many rocks there are in Stonehenge, but there's a good number. But I suppose when you were talking about,
it'd take at least 2 dragons.
Well, I suppose when you look at the talk about like how incredible the Númenóreans were at their work and their architecture and all that kind of stuff, just the size and the height of Orthanc itself, and there's nothing really like it over all over Middle Earth. It is really incredible, and it kind of makes you think, what was Númenor like? And I know yourself and myself were watching the Rings of Power, and we enjoy it for what it is, and we like to pick things out that we don't like, but we definitely said like Númenor does look class. But I suppose when you get this description and put it kind of at the forefront of your mind, you're thinking, okay, 2 Númenorian objects we have are the Ramesek, or the outer layer of Minas Tirith, and the Tower of Orthanc.
Yeah, the Ramesek, I think that's what it is.
I think that might be I think that's the wall like around the Pelennor Field. So,
okay.
So the bottom level of Minas Tirith. So those are like the 2 Númenorian structures that are still in use that we know of now. And you think like, what were their cities like in Númenor? What was Armenelos like? It had skyscrapers that had like slides going from building to building, and twirly.
I want to see a whole black city where just everything is created from that black stone.
I'm surprised we didn't get any of that in the Rings of Power, like just black buildings anywhere.
They
didn't think of it. Who knows? There's other cities to be seen. So hopefully.
Why did they build the Stonehenge? How could they raise the stone so high, completely without the technology?
Dave, how did Wormtongue get into Orthanc? Did he sneak in behind Treebeard's back, or what's the story? Like, I'm saying after he ran away from Rohan.
No, he rocked up to the walls of Isengard, and Treebeard said, you can either sit here and wait for Gandalf, or else you can swim across the flood that's in Isengard to your other master. So he picked the lesser of 2 evils in his mind and swam to his evil master.
Better the devil you know.
Yeah, exactly. Devil you know, because he hated both the wizards, but at least he knew Saruman.
Very good. Yes. Now, I knew you'd know the answer to that because we just did our Grima episode not too long ago. So if anybody hasn't heard that, go check that one out. It was a really, really good episode. But I was asking that question because there's a quote here that I wanted to read, which was very, very cool. Again, just, it's another part that's focused on Isengard and being in that area. So there's a quote here from book 3, or it's
3.
part one of the Two Towers,
Right.
chapter 9. And it is, Treebeard looked at him in his long, slow way for several minutes till the wretched man was squirming on the floor. Then at last he said, I was expecting you, Master Wormtongue. The man started at that name. Gandalf got here first, so I know as much about you as I need, and I know what to do with you. Put all the rats in one trap, said Gandalf, and I will. I am the master of Isengard now, but Saruman is locked in his tower, and you can go there and give him all the messages that you can think of. So that's a quote from Treebeard there, cool. And very, very cool. Again, obviously he said you can go and you can give him all the messages you want, because Grima showed up saying like, "Oh, I have a message, and I was sent here by Rohan."
Theoden.
Like
Didn't he say like I was sent here by Theoden? Does he even know Theoden was dead at the time? Who knows? Probably.
Theoden wasn't dead at this time.
Was he not? No, he wasn't.
No.
So he didn't know that he was dead because he wasn't dead.
Because this is like the Two Towers.
Question.
This is where Wormtongue shows up, and then he warns. Then he tells Saruman about Aragorn and all that kind of stuff. And then that's where Anyway, in the movies, that's where he's like, "You stink of horse" and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, what happened, Dave, to Saruman after he was trapped in Orthanc?
When was he trapped in Orthanc? Remind me again.
Well, like after Gandalf broke his staff.
What happened to Saruman? Did he escaped with Grima?
Yes, he escaped with Grima, and how did he escape?
That's a good cue. I don't know. I actually don't know.
Well, the answer is that he eventually just talked his way out.
Well, that sounds like very Saruman, doesn't it?
The same as the way he talked himself in.
Yeah.
Like, "Hey, see that tower over there? You should give that tower to me." And they were just like, "No, that's a great idea. Thank you for that suggestion, Saruman. Here you go. Here's the key. And this is the key to Orthanc." He was like, "Thank you very much." And then later on, he was just like, he just kind of asked nicely to Treebeard, and Treebeard just like let him out. And so even though like Saruman, his staff was gone and his magic was gone, he still had his voice and he still had his way of persuading people. Now Treebeard wasn't just completely, he didn't get completely tricked or anything like that. He also was just like, he felt that Saruman wasn't really much of a threat anymore, and he also was kind of fed up of being a jailer. So he was just like, "All right, look, go on, off you go. You've been in there long enough," and he just let them go.
Fair.
And the next question I have is, what then happened to Orthanc after the Lord of the Rings? We already mentioned this before, so I'm just going to quickly go over this again. That after Saruman was defeated by Treebeard and the Ents, Orthanc reverted to a Gondorian ownership, and Aragorn gave the Ents control of Orthanc with the provision that they keep out all the enemies of the reunited kingdoms of Gondor and Arnor. The Ents turned the ring of Isengard into a beautiful garden and reforested the surrounding areas, and they named the new forest the Treegarth of Orthanc. So we mentioned that a little bit before earlier, but just it's cool as well to note that they just kind of turned that whole like concreted area how Saruman had left it. They just kind of turned that into a beautiful, wonderful garden, and like I just imagine it's like botanical garden and just like with the path in the middle and two-level effect. And, so
beautiful, like a little Japanese garden as well. Had like little streams and bridge, little red bridge as well. Beautiful.
Yeah, I'm sure it was gorgeous. So that's the situation afterwards. And then the other final thing I want to note is about Aragorn, and did he ever actually step inside the Tower of Orthanc? Well, again, we kind of answered this before, that during the Fourth Age, after he had been crowned as King Elisar, he visited Orthanc, and that's when he found all these heirlooms. And as I said before, he found this thing called the Elendilmir, the Star of Arnor. And this also was important because this was one thing that kind of gave him the complete authority then to rule Arnor. So he already had kind of, when he was kind of crowned as king before, he was given the scepter of I think it's called the scepter of Anuminus.
Anuminus, yeah. I said Armenelus, but yeah, it's Anuminus.
Yeah, I think it's the scepter of Anuminus. That was another thing that he had. So he had lots of little, I don't know, just items and objects that he used, and was like, this shows that I
Yeah.
should rule by divine providence. And they're like, okay.
It is weird
get on
how
with
they're
it.
like, you are our master, but you've also found the stone of Ithilden, or like here now you are now you really are a
collect
master.
10 points.
Yeah, exactly. Do not pass go.
Do pass go. And
pass
do collect the $200. Yeah. Right, Dave. Just before we get to the end, I've got a couple of final quotes for you. You can really redeem yourself here.
Alrighty.
Are you ready?
What do you mean? This is the first
So-
time we're ever playing this game.
We've never done any quotes yet today.
Never.
So, yeah, here you go. The first time to, really stamp your authority on this. Right. So, the fires of Isengard will spread, and the woods of Tuckborough and Buckland will burn. And all
that was once, and all that grows will be no more. Something like that. There won't
it's
be
something
a
around there,
Shire
but you're.
Pip.
Yes, okay, good. That is the final part of it. Very, very good. Well done.
And all
So-
that was all that grows and that is pure.
All that was green
all that was green will be
and good.
All that was green and good will be no more.
It's not no more. It's a more normal everyday word than no more.
Will be gone. Will be gone.
Yes, will
Yes.
be gone.
There
won't be a Shire Pip.
Shire Pip. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good. So he says, this is obviously a quote from Merry, and he says, the fires of Isengard will spread. It's like, it's when Pippin's saying, this is too big for us. What can we do? We've got the Shire. We should go home.
Yeah. I can do
And then,
Pippin's quotes.
Yeah.
Resonates with me.
Fool of it, Dave. So the fires of Isengard will spread, and the woods of Tuckborough and Buckland will burn, and all that was once green and good in this world will be gone. There won't be a Shire, Pippin. So that's a quote. We have one more
All right.
quote to finish them off,
Finish
and
on a
one more
high.
to rule them all. Okay, I'm looking for the final sentence of just a couple of words after the quote that I read to you. So, there is no curse in Elvish, Entish, or the tongues of men for this treachery. My business is with Isengard tonight. There's 4 words I'm looking for.
The Ents are going.
My business is with Isengard tonight. What they're going to use in his attack on Isengard.
Rock, twig, and root. No.
Nope, that's a different. But rock, yes, definitely. He's not going to use
Rock
a twig
and
against.
tree. Rock and stone.
Yes, with rock and stone is what he says.
Okay,
My
yeah.
business is with Isengard tonight, with rock and stone.
Wow, okay. The
And
Ents
who said that,
are
David?
The tree beard.
Treebeard, exactly. Very, very good. Old Fangorn, as he's also called.
These trees were my friends.
Okay, you can redeem yourself with some impersonations instead of with the quotes. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Brilliant. Okay. Very good.
It was tough.
Well, it was tough.
But it was
tough
enjoyable.
now.
It really got the
Yeah.
brain holes working.
So just before we finish up, I was just going to run through again maybe what Saruman would do in Orthanc on his day-to-day type of situation.
Very good.
So just very, very quickly here. So on Saruman's day-to-day, his activities consisted primarily of trying to find out how the Rings of Power were made, which was lost when Eregion was overrun, and something happened that I'm not going to say in case you're getting ready for the upcoming Rings of Power series. So he wanted to be able to make one, and ideally one that could operate as the One Ring did, providing him with power and dominion. And to this end, I'm sure he spent a lot of time in a forge, making both jewelry and practicing magic. He also devised a lot of machinery and weapons, and these were helpful in driving the necromancer out of Dol Guldur. At some point, he invented a blasting fire that could blow up walls, and with this, the orcs managed to breach Helm's Deep. He also conducted breeding experiments in which he managed to create a kind of orc that could tolerate sunlight, and we don't know much about this process, thankfully. Finally, there was diplomacy and war planning, and so he must have sent emissaries to Dunland to stir up the Dunlendings and also into the Misty Mountains to recruit the orcs to his cause. And all of these people would have needed food, barracks, and arms in Isengard, and there's no record of any lieutenant to help him manage it. Also, he was obviously a very, very busy boy.
I was just going to say, busy man. Our busy wizard, I suppose. Very, very busy.
Yeah, he was very active in his old age. Fair play to him.
I really thought you were going to like say, now we're going to talk about Saruman's day today. Just be like, 7 a.m. Another granola today. Like, oh, today's a cheat day. Going to have a muffin with my cereal. And then
Got to get my fiber in the morning.
8 a.m. Do a longer poo than usual today. 9 p.m. 9 p.m. Jeez, that's a long poo.
Yes,
practice archery.
Wizard lunges. Get
Exactly.
the core going. Well, that, anyway, my fellow Lord of the Rings nerds, that brings us to the end of our journey through the halls of Isengard and the soaring heights of the Tower of Orthanc. And we really hope that you've enjoyed this deep dive into one of Tolkien's most fascinating locations. And if you like what you heard today, please don't forget to subscribe and leave a review, leave a comment, leave a 5-star rating, please, 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 on your favorite podcast platform. And of course, join us next week, myself and Dave, while we continue to explore the wonders and mysteries of Middle-earth.
Middle-earth. And also, I want to know how you guys got on and all the quote games. So, if you managed to beat me, which is not possible.
If you got all those, you definitely, everyone bet you did. Everyone bet you. No, to be honest, those were very difficult quotes now today. Those were very difficult. That was a very difficult game. So, if you did manage to get most or all of them right, please let us know, because we would be very impressed and we'd love to give you a shout out.
Yeah.
So,
that would be cool. Yeah, well, that's great. Really enjoyed the podcast.
That's a wrap.
And look forward to next week.
See you later, guys.
See you guys.